Welcome back, team. This is Topless Talks with Nova, episode 12. Let me just say, if you've made it this far in my podcast journey, if you've been here the whole time, you fucking rock. If you've been here since the beginning, I am so proud of you and I love you so much. Thank you. And if you're just now jumping in, welcome. I hope you enjoy it here. So, happy October, guys. It is finally spooky season. I'm not sure if you guys like Halloween as much as I do. I'm not sure if you like October as much as I do. And it's not, so I love October for not like, yes, I love horror, and I love candy, and I love going to pumpkin patches, and I love everything. I love everything about it. But what I really like it for is like the vibe, like just the feel in the air. There's something floating around. It just like, I can't explain it. It just feels so good. It's cooling off. I can dress up. You know, there's like everything about it. I wish that I could just stay in October for the entire year. I wish that I could just stay in this feeling for the whole year. I think that would solve all my problems. How was your guys' week? My week was actually kind of crazy. So I dusted off my stripper heels for the weekend and I got back in the club. I got back to, in real life, shaking my ass for cash. And it felt fucking good. It felt so good being back in the club. And it was a great workout. Kicked my ass for sure. I'm definitely not as young as I used to be. But I think I'm going to make it a weekly thing. I think I'm going to be back for a while. I think I'm going to be there to stay for the foreseeable future. I really actually did enjoy myself. It was so much fun. And I saw a lot of my regulars and I made a couple new regulars. And I just I love the atmosphere of a strip club. It's one of my favorite places to be. And especially when everyone's in a good mood. And of course, every night you're going to have someone that's going to violate you in some way, whether it be physically or emotionally or whatever. But when everyone, including yourself, is just in a good, high-spirited mood, it just makes the whole night that much better. And maybe it was just my perception of the night, but everyone was so happy. Everyone was so nice. And so it made me so happy and it made me so nice. And if you were there and you saw me, I love you. And if you weren't able to show up, I still love you. Anyways, long story short, I had a lot of fun. And it felt good. Felt good being a stripper again. So anyway, since it is October, it is spooky season. I told you guys that I was going to dedicate October to spooky, scary topics. Okay? So, in the spirit of October and of Halloween, I'm filming this October 1st. So I'm starting this month off fucking strong. You hear me? So for the spirit of October, for the spirit of Halloween, this episode, we're going to be talking about one of the scariest, most haunted places in the U.S. It is located in Jefferson County, Kentucky, and it is called Waverly Hills Sanatorium. Have you heard of it? Waverly Hills is, or was, a tuberculosis clinic. So back in 1910, early 1900s, tuberculosis was a new sickness, a new infection that we had no idea the cause or the treatment or what to do. It really took us by surprise. It was so bad that it was referred to as White Death. Like, it was referred to as a plague because of how intense it was. So Waverly Hills opened in 1910, and it was considered one of the most advanced clinics for its time. And even then, over 6,000 people died in this facility, which is an absurd number. And so when we were first hit with this wave of tuberculosis, we had no idea what the treatment was. They did notice at first, like after a while, that the patients that had fresh air, sunlight, and nutritious food usually healed quicker or at all, which led the nurses and the doctors in this facility to be constantly giving the patients fresh air. And when I was doing this research, there's literal pictures of patients that are sitting outside getting their fresh air, and they're covered in snow. So that's how serious they were about getting this fresh air and sunlight. They even had a name for it. It's called heliotherapy. And heliotherapy is even a step further because they would expose parts of their body, including the lungs themselves, to ultraviolet light in hopes to kill the bacteria. Which, ouch. So because we had no idea what the treatment was, the sanatorium was really just a way to isolate the patients that were infected, to keep them away from people who were not infected, because it's an airborne illness. So other treatments involved removing ribs in order to collapse the lung. From my research, it seemed that they wanted the lung to be collapsed in order to give it time and energy to heal. So in this surgery of removing the ribs, they would only be able to remove 2 or 3 at a time. But in order for the procedure to actually work, most patients would need to remove about 8 ribs. So they would have to undergo 2 or 3, sometimes 4 surgeries in order to achieve just the collapsed lung. So you can imagine just the amount of pain and misery that these patients are getting put under, you know. Another really experimental treatment that they did was putting balloons or pockets of air inside of the lung or in the space between the lung to expand it and keep the lung from having to do a lot of work. This procedure was obviously very, very risky and resulted in a lot of deaths. And they actually have the literal patient list, a list of all the deaths in Waverly Hills Sanatorium. You're able to look it up on Google right now. And it's insane. They have it in alphabetical order. And then, of course, some treatments also include just removing the lung or parts of the lung, which you can imagine isn't ideal. Probably not ideal to only have 1.5 lungs or 1 lung. So one of the things that Waverly Hills is famous for is the body chute. So they have a tunnel somewhere in, like, underneath or in the back of the facility where they would, like, wheel dead patients so that they would help preserve the mental health of the current patients. So they would be able to move the dead bodies in secret without having to show the other patients that they're currently in. And like I said, there was over 6,000 deaths in this facility. And that's just as while it was open as a tuberculosis center. It was also different things later on, but I'll get to that. So Waverly Hills closed in 1961, mainly due to the fact that we found a vaccine and it was no longer needed to have tuberculosis facilities like that. So it closed in 1961, and then in 1962, it reopened and turned into a geriatric center. So caring for elderly and mentally challenged and things like that. For the geriatric center, there were rumors of extreme neglect, abuse, unusual experiments on some of the patients. And of course, like, these patients are more vulnerable, or less likely to speak out about their abuse and neglect. And this was during the time that electroshock therapy was used a lot. They would use electroshock therapy for a lot of the mental ailments that we see today. So after it was a geriatric center and a tuberculosis facility, Waverly Hills was auctioned off and changed hands several times in the decades after that. So in 1983, someone bought it and had plans to make it a minimum security prison, which that didn't go through because the neighbors didn't want that to happen. And so then he had plans to make it apartments. Same guy. But he didn't have the funds for it. So he ended up selling it. And in 1996, someone bought it with plans to build the tallest structure of Jesus Christ ever built. So the structure was going to be 150 feet tall and an estimated $12 million. So his plan was to make it fully donation based. And so in the first year, he was only able to collect $3,000 of the $12 million. So he was unable to go through with his plans. It seems that this place just isn't meant to be anything but what it is. And it seems that the facility itself is kind of resisting. The facility itself realizes that I don't want to be apartments. I don't want to be a meditative facility. I don't want to be a prison. I'm meant to be a rundown hospital and haunted mansion. So let's get on to like the actual haunted aspects of Waverly Hill Sanatorium. So there are like rumors here and there of like there's a little girl running down the 3rd floor hallways. There's a little boy named Timmy that plays with a leather ball, or someone has seen a hearse dropping off coffins in the back. And of course, like slamming doors, lights in the building when there's no electricity being ran to it, strange sounds, you know. There's also, allegedly, there's a woman with slit wrists that cries for help and runs away whenever you approach her. But one of the most haunted aspects of Waverly Hills is apparently room 502 on the 5th floor. So the way that the facility was set up is there were 2 big rooms. It was kind of like a butterfly setting. So there are 2 nurses' stations, 2 large rooms, and then a linen closet and everything else. In 1928, a nurse allegedly was found hanged in room 502. Apparently, she was unmarried and pregnant, and I guess the story is that she was upset that she was pregnant out of wedlock. Whatever. Then, in 1932, another nurse that worked in room 502 jumped off the top of the building and committed suicide that way. So, ever since then, pregnant women claim to feel uncomfortable in room 502. Some people have claimed that they feel an uncontrollable urge to jump, and so much so that they have to be coaxed down. There's another story in which there is allegedly a man in a white coat, presumably a doctor, walking around the 4th floor, and the story is that you follow him to the kitchen and you can smell fresh baked bread. I don't know if you believe in ghosts. I don't know if you have seen anything or have experienced anything. I'm not even sure if I believe in ghosts. What I do believe is that there is, energy cannot be destroyed. It just changes form. And I do believe that there can be some leftover energy that humans leave. I do believe that people have different levels of like the energy that they have inside of them. At least I think so. And I do think that people that had higher vibrations of like anger, and because anger is a very powerful feeling, anger, sadness, even like really intense joy and happiness, I think that those can leave residuals. I don't know if I would consider that a ghost, but I do think that maybe that energy can interact with the world in a weird way, and can interact with people in a weird way, or, it shows itself to people in different ways. There's a lot of evidence that does not support these stories and these like ghost stories. And believe what you want, but it's cool to read the history of these kinds of places, because people died suffering in this facility. Many, many people died. Over 6,000 people died suffering. Very terrible deaths. Were separated from their family, were completely scared in a place where they're completely isolated, and even the doctors don't know what to do. They're performing experimental surgeries on you. There's little to no hope to a cure, and most of the people, despite it being the most advanced facility, most people still died. And imagine just being alone with a mystery illness. So I can imagine that there's a lot of sadness and rage and confusion that a lot of these people that died in this facility were carrying with them, Like I said, I don't know what you believe, but I do believe that there can be residuals of that energy and of those emotions. I myself have never experienced anything concrete enough to convert me into a full believer. If you guys have any like ghost stories or like crazy experiences that you have, I want to hear all of them. I want to try to convert me. I want to be a believer. With Waverly Hills Sanatorium, you can go there as a tour, 2-day. They even have like overnight stays that you could do. I'm pretty sure they have a Halloween special that's only $20 for like the tour. I'm pretty sure staying overnight is at least $500, maybe even more. But if you're into that kind of thing, that shit's worth it. So tell me your ghost stories. I want to hear them. Submit them into the suggestion box, and I'll check them promptly. So on to Come Counter and Weekly Sex Fact. Man, you guys are gonna... I think that my numbers this week are going to impress you. I think they're gonna impress you. But first, the sex fact. Tarantism. I don't even know if I'm pronouncing that correctly, but tarantism is an idea from the Middle Ages that a tarantula bite could cause sexual mania and frenzied dancing. So they believed that if they were bit by a tarantula, that it would cause them to be sexually manic and or uncontrollably dancing. And so you would find people uncontrollably dancing, thinking that that was going to cure them. Look it up, okay? Tarantism. Have you ever even seen a tarantula in the wild? I have. So, my cum counter this week. It's been a horny week, okay? I've been a horny girl this week. So, I don't even have like a precise number, but it's over 30. Over 30 this week, okay? I told you that my numbers have been lacking, and they were, but I brought them up. I think that's a new record for me. I think that's a new record for Nova this week. And I deserve my props, and I need you to pat me on the back and show me some love, because I really worked hard to put those numbers in this week. Okay, boss, I really worked. I worked overtime. I worked overtime for those numbers, boss, okay? I need a raise or something. I'm just kidding. So yeah, I know you didn't beat me this week. I know none of you motherfuckers are masturbating over 30 times. No one's on that level. I mean, maybe you are. Maybe you are, and I'm just catching up to you. If so, props, king. Anyway, I love you guys. Thank you for sitting through yet another interesting, potentially boring topic. Next week is going to be another spooky topic, so be prepared. And I love you. I hope you have a really good week this week, and I hope that everything you do is in service to yourself. And even if those things are in service to other people, I hope that those other people are partially in service to you as well. So, in turn, servicing to yourself. That probably didn't make any fucking sense. But I love you anyway, and I hope you have an awesome day. Bye.